All right, welcome back to the garage, everyone. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and start working on some engine stuff. Better late than never, I guess. This thing's been sitting on the bench here for months and months and months, and we haven't even touched it because, well, it just wasn't the right time. So yeah, this is intake manifold off the M117.982, I think is the engine designator, in this 73. Actually, it's an early 73 450 SL. So my goal here is to completely dismantle this today and bag and tag everything. During the process, clean everything up, make it look newish again, and then at some point in the very near future, reassemble with new gaskets and everything we need to make this a fully functional intake system again. The most problematic issue we have here is this throttle blade down in here is just locked up solid. I think the mice had gotten down in there, and if I sound a little hoarse, I was at a little bit of a concert a couple of days ago listening to some loud music and screaming at everybody, so bear with me on that. Anyway, so on the rear end of this 450 SL, I stripped out once again, I stripped out another hub trying to tighten the bearings down. Now, it was a used hub, so, there's that. So I decided, well, you know what? I got on eBay and I found a completely whole driver's side rear trailing arm and hub, and it's just all in one piece. I ordered a couple of trailing arm bushings for it. My goal is to remove the bushings that are in it because they're junk, and put new ones in there, and then slap that in there and get a wheel on this thing so I can drop this car on the ground and get back to the front of the car. There's only one problem with that. The bearings in this assembly that I bought clearly need work because you turn it and it's inside there. It's just a mess. Kind of up in the air about what I'm going to actually do. I'm on the fence. The bearings in that cannot stay there. They have to be replaced simply because if I can turn it like this and hear the crunchy, it's in rough shape. I could put that on the car, put everything back together, and just not worry about it, and change the bearings out, I don't know, months and months from now, after we get this thing cranked up and ready to test drive. But that means removing the axle on the driver's side once again to do that work. And you know what a hassle that is. The other half of me says, well, just put the rear trailing arm on the car and go ahead and replace the bearings in it now and risk it. And hopefully you won't strip a third one out. So anyway, that's the dilemma I'm faced with. We'll see how well we do. But for now, I want to tear this thing down, bag and tag everything, clean everything up, get it painted, get it ready to put on our freshly rebuilt M117 engine. So let's dive right in, as the YouTubers say. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just taking a bunch of photographs so that I see, that one there, I don't have to take a photograph of that. Oh yeah, it went over here. That's where it went. Yep, let's see. Actually, it went kind of like that. I believe this is the fuel, this is the regulator, and this is like an accumulator, or vice versa, one or the other. Anyway, these guys here control the fuel flow. I believe that is a regulator. They look the same, but they have different purposes. And this should be the manifold pressure hose. This goes over to the map sensor on the driver's side fender well. There's another vacuum line there. I'm not sure what that went to. We'll figure it out later. And then you got the throttle position sensor right over here. Got a vacuum. That may have gone to the I'm not sure. One of these goes to the transmission modulator, I believe. I just don't remember where everything went. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. All right, I think that's enough. Where should we start? Let's get some bags. Here we have a marker. I think I'll start in the middle with the throttle return spring. We'll mark this as throttle. How about that? All right, what's next? I'm going to pop that off. Mercedes loves these little ball and socket things. Boop. There we go. This has a center nut and a couple of springs. I'm assuming that is the length adjustment. So make note that this one is at a 90-degree offset. This throttle blade here is just locked up solid. You can't move that. I did tap on it with a hammer, and it moved a little bit, but we're not going to go crazy with that just yet. Take a picture of that. Make a little video footage of how that works right there. All right, I think I'm going to take this E-clip off next. C-clip, E-clip, whatever you want to call it. It does have a bushing in there. Seems to be intact. Hopefully we won't break it or cause ourselves a problem. Now what about this? Okay, that comes off too. That's a very tight fit. Got another clip right here. You always want to enshroud. When you take these things off, enshroud it with your hand in case it goes fling across the room. You know, you don't want to lose it. I mean, you can go put another one on it, but you know, you just don't want to lose it. So what do we got here? That's an intake manifold bolt. We're going to put those in a special bag by themselves, I guess. And I'm going to take that loose. All right, we're going to give a light touch with the impact here. It seemed to work out just fine. There we go. That just comes off in one. We'll just leave that alone. We won't touch that. We'll just leave this stuff connected together, and we'll just clean it up. Now we have the fuel accumulator loose, and the regulator is attached with what appears to be a 10. All right, we've got a 10 here. Let's see. There we go. Gee whiz, what is your problem? Clearly that's never been out of there. Let's see. There we go. That just comes out of here like that. And we can remove this pipework. Fuel regulator. We'll just call it that. Let's see. We got some loose bolts here. Bag them up. While we're on the back of the intake, we'll go ahead and get this pipework off of here. Let's see, what is that? It's a 19. No, 19. I like that song. Paul Hardcastle. I like his music. That 19 song hit the charts in the United States back in the day. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, how about that? I'm going to have to get another 19 and break those two free there. This is just ridiculous. I suppose the best thing would be to separate these two before you take this out. That's probably the way to do it. Yep, probably so. What we're going to call this? We're going to put this in the fuel bag. So the dilemma here is, how much of this stuff do you want to take off because it might break? You know what I'm saying? We've got a couple of plastic sensors up here on the front of the engine, on the front of the intake, and I really don't relish the idea of taking those out. Let's get our vacuum off of here. This is an old cloth vacuum line. It looks to be original to the car, actually, but that will get replaced, obviously. And we got this guy back here. There's a vacuum line that went somewhere. A lot of threads on that. Got a banjo bolt there. Was that vacuum for the transmission? I can't remember. All right, we've got 13 here. We're gonna take it lightly and break these bolts loose that hold the throttle to the intake. We've got a rubber mallet here. Mallet. What is this, 1948? Mallet. There we go. All right, she's loose. I got to cut this rubber hose here, though. This clamp seems to be in good shape. That hose is rock hard. Rock hard. It's like a Chevrolet. It's like a rock. For those of you who don't know, that was a commercial in the 1980s for Chevy. Like a rock. It sits there and won't crank like a rock. I'm kidding. I love Chevrolets. I'd love this Mercedes if this damn thing would come off of here. There we go. Okay. Throttle is free. There's about 100 years of mouse piss down in there. And that looks pretty good, actually. It's just froze up in I think the hinges are just, the hinges down in there are corroded up. So we'll get it working. Down inside the intake manifold, you can see from that little bit of light you have right there, is actually pretty dang good. I don't see any stalagmites or stalactites growing down in there. Wind. All right. I feel a lot better about that. All right. We're going to stick with the plan and just keep moving this way. Next up, I'm going to get these pipes disconnected here. All right. As luck would have it, I do, in fact, have the right size wrench here. That was easy. Thankfully. Well, it's just an air pipe, right? This is just for air. So the M117 aficionados should comment down below, actually, and tell us all about this air pipe that I'm removing right about now. That way I can read it and figure out what it is. I could just plug it into AI or Chat GPT or Grok, Notebook LM, hundreds of other AI tools that we have now. This sounds like a task for this wimpy little thing here. If it was rubber, it's turned to plastic. If it was plastic, it's, well, broken now. It was already broken. It was very cracked, so it doesn't matter. Do not break the plastic sensors. You can still see the original bright, shiny plating on that pipe underneath there. That's what it looked like originally. I suppose I could send this stuff off and have it plated. And that one came off easily. Cool. Alright, what's next? That bolt's not coming out, is it? Not until we take that off. I don't really want to take that off, to be honest with you. Alright, let's get this hose off of here. I guess we'll hold on to that just so we know how long it was and what size it was and all that kind of jazz. I know it seems silly to keep garbage, but it's going to serve as a reference for you when you start putting things back together. You know, you can measure the inside diameter of hoses, and you know, you can select the right stuff to use, and then you just toss the junk afterwards. That is plastic. Astonishingly, I didn't mutilate that. I would imagine this is a specially formed piece of hose here. I might be stabbing myself in the foot on purpose if I remove that. I'm not sure. Let me think about this for a minute. That was easy. Do not lose the crush washers. I don't know, what am I going to call this? What'd you guys do with my marker? All right, so this stuff here, I'm just going to, since I can't recall what the names are, I'm just going to call it the front. I'm going to take these 8mm off of this thing next, I guess. Not stellar. I can't find my battery ratchet. Where did you guys do with it? Did I leave it in the trunk of the R107, or did I leave it underneath the, probably left it in the fender well on the driver's side when I was messing with the brakes. That's probably where it is. There we go. So I kind of figured that's got a temperature probe in the bottom of it. That's a thermostat of some kind. So, look at that. See there? Look at that. There's nothing wrong with that hose. This hose is going to go back on the car. And where's my front bag? There it is right there. Now this thing, whether or not that works, this is a Bosch. Yeah, it's a part number. And I'm going to bag that up. All right. And we got some Allens here. They look to be, 4 or 5. Okay. Got a 5 here. Make sure you get it down in there good now. Oh, that was pretty loose, actually. Okay, that's cool. All right, let's see if we can get lucky again. There we go. Yep, old Big Bertha got after it. Took her on out. Okay, there we go. We got that assembly off. That just bolted to the metal there. There wasn't any connection down inside there. All the guts are inside. All the gazentas and the gazautas are inside this little module right here. What's our part number? 116086. I don't know. I can't read that. It's kind of ground off. But whatever. All right, we're going to bag it up. Move on. We got to be careful with this sensor here. I'm assuming it's a temperature sensor. That's plastic. I'm guessing if I broke it, I could buy another one, but I really don't want to do that. Set that back there. Treat it gingerly. And we've got a couple sensors here. I guess I've committed myself to removing this stuff. That one's a bit cantankerous. We're going to go back the other way. There we go. Got some corrosion in there. We just got to work through it without tearing things up. All right, we got one bolt there. Does that come out? I really don't want to take that out. I'm not going to take that out. There's a bolt. Let's take that one out. Do I have all of the bolts out to separate the two halves? Let's find out. This thing is very lightweight now without all this stuff on it. I can't recall what that one's for. I haven't actually ordered the gaskets because I wanted to wait until I got it apart to see. Because these engines changed a little bit over time, at least as far as I know anyway. I think we're ready to separate the two halves here. Well, how do you do that, Mr. Smarty? I have no idea. I guess you just pound on it with a hammer. Or you could just yank it like that. Man up and yank it. As Ted Nugent once said, yank me, crank me, but don't wake up to thank me. On the back of the motor, these are closer, and these are farther apart up here. And then on the other side, let's see, which side am I, okay. All right, so this is the driver's side. So they're close on the front on the driver and far away on the back on the driver, and they're vice versa. They're close on the back and farther apart up here. Because I was ordering gaskets and I saw a couple of different versions, and that's the reason why I wanted to inspect this much more closely. You see this? Can we reuse this? I know that sounds like a stupid question. Of course you can. It's 53 years old, you know, but it seems to be okay. You know, as soon as we start running the engine and this starts to heat cycle, this stuff is just going to fall apart. But it looks pretty good, actually, astonishingly. Pretty cool, really. But, you know, I guess we'll order new ones. So these are just rubber seals. They have a central rib inside them, and they just slip over there like that, and just slip over there like that, and hell, that's all there is to it. Let's take a look at this. I'm not sure what in the hell. Okay, so yeah, the air goes in here, and it's got to go down and over and back up, and it's got to go up into these intake runners and then back down. It's kind of like my Cadillac. The Cadillac intake below the carburetor is lower than the intake ports on the heads, and a lot of other American V8s are not like that, so at least as far as I know. Okay, anything else that I didn't take off that I need to take off? I don't think so. This fitting here is a little loosey-goosey, so that's, oh, there we go. I missed a couple of washers here, so they tried to escape. This little airport thing here is, we might as well just throw that in the bag as well, since it's already loose. I'm not going to remove these because they look like they would be problematic. Because if you see this right here, you see this air runner here, this is a thin piece of aluminum. You start farting around with that right there and try to loosen that. I have no idea how tight this is. This might even be, I don't know. I don't care. That'll break. I'm not messing with that. Let's take these rubber seals off. They probably don't seal very well, and getting new ones is the best thing to do. I think a pressure washer is in order. I certainly do. Let's go do that next. You know, we had the driest April on record, I think, here in Alabama. It was 80 degrees and bone dry all April long. And here it is, May. It's 60 degrees and rainy. I don't get it. We're going to depend on our old friend, Mr. Super Clean, to help us get our intake nice and tidy. And I've got a piece of rubber here on the concrete to protect the part. So let's get busy. Come on, spray bottle. You can do it. There we go. All right, we're going to let that sit for about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to fire up the pressure washer and see how well we do. I think I'm gonna go change my clothes. Anytime you spray something that's like really has a lot of weird shapes and stuff, you're gonna get really soaked. So yeah, there you go. There's the underside. That came a lot more clean because that was simply subjected to you know, grease and grime and whatnot. Now the top side of the intake, a little more problematic, but it did come very, very clean. Mostly what you're dealing with here on this barn find car, corrosion from rodent urination. It's discoloration of the aluminum here. So probably what I'll do is get in there with a little bit of a wire wheel, especially on these ports here. We have bimetal corrosion. And we'll get in there with some aluminum paint. And these two parts, well, they'll look brand new when we're done. So yeah. All right, let's move on. All right, so I've got these two pieces of the intake sitting over here. They're going to get painted. And I got in here with a wire wheel and got some of this corrosion off here and there. Some of this stuff that you still see right in here, pretty bad corrosion, and it's basically damage from rodents. So not a lot we can do with it other than just paint it and go on about your business. So that's what we're going to do. Up next, what we have here is the throttle valve, or whatever you want to call it. Locked up tight, I might add. Still got the sensor on the side. If we remove this throttle blade shaft and blade out of here, these screws appear to be swaged. I might have to get the milling bit on the Dremel tool out. And you never can tell. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I guess let's go ahead and just take this side off next. Let me go ahead and just snap a couple of photographs here. All right, we'll take that off next. Hey, you know what? I bet it's a 9. It certainly is. And we're just gonna not screw around. I'm gonna put this on low. Yeah, there we go. All right, there we go. Never mind. Okay, we got that out of there. What is that? That looks like a throttle stop of some kind. This set screw, I'm assuming that is a throttle stop or something. I don't know what it is. Got a piece of rubber hose hanging around here for some reason. Vacuum for something. This is throttle. This is the throttle bag. So let's put this in the throttle bag. I was toying with the idea of sending these engine parts off to a plater, having them done up, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. I don't know how much it costs. And what is that? That is a 7. Man, we got oddball sizes on this thing. I'm assuming the throttle position sensor, this is the adjustment for it, you know, like that. And you can see where there's a groove here on either side. You know, I'm going to take one more photo of that throttle adjustment. So we have a ballpark estimate on how to set it when we put this thing back together. All right, thankfully, those were not difficult to remove. Now let's see what, does that just pull off? How does that work? Yep, there we go. It's just a, you've got a flat on that shaft right there, and this actually really clean down in there. So that's pretty cool. We're going to have to bench test this sensor. I'm assuming that would come in the form of taking impedance checks, or I'm sorry, resistance. Yeah, whatever. You know who you are. Resistance is futile when you're dealing with viewers. I kept referring to it as impedance. Well, you can't say that. That's for AC circuitry. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we're going to check the resistance as we, turn that thing, make sure that works. Might not work. Can it be rebuilt? Have no idea. But I think we're going to put it in its own little baggie. I'm not even going to label it because I know what it is. All right, what's next? This thing is so gummed up and nasty, it is beyond. There's a little clip right there. Oh, look at that. Now that is interesting. There's a little bleed screw right here, and there's a little hole right there. And I'm assuming that's bypass air. Is that bypass air or fuel or whatever? That's probably some kind of a little, adjustment to make this thing idle just right. If I had to take a stab on that, don't really know. Never taken one of these apart before in my life. It seems, however, the next thing we're going to have to deal with is this throttle blade down in here. I'm not banging on it hard. Not even making a mark. It sounds bad, but, I just want to see if I can make it move. And I would imagine I could find another one of these, on eBay or something. Man, that thing is locked up. There we go. That worked. I'm going back and forth. Got it to open up. How about that? But it's just too daggum nasty. Let's see if we can do something with those screws down in there. Well, let's see if we can do a little damage with this wire brush so we can see what we're doing here. Most reasonable people would just buy another one, I think. Got a little mineral spirits here. Help us see what we're doing down in there. There we go. We can actually see a little bit down in there now. Oh, I know what that is now. Okay, I'm an idiot. All right, so that screw was screwed all the way through, and then they got like some kind of a punch and pop, pop, so that it wouldn't back out. That's what's going on. So yeah, we're gonna have to grind that off of there. All right, I got this stone thing on the end of my Dremel here. It seems to be whittling away at the end of the screw. Let's see if that will give us anything at all here. We may have to drill out every bit of this crap. Popped loose. How about that? Yeah, I reckon I can find some new ones. How hard could it be? All right, let me eat the end of that screw off there. I'll be right back. All right, that wasn't too bad. Yeah, we went to school on that, didn't we? All right, now we've got to tap this shaft out of here. Looks like we've got had a felt or some kind of soft seal here on this shaft. It's a throttle shaft seal. And interesting. Well, let me see if I can't take this little retainer clip off. All right, I just brute forced it. Probably stretched it too far. But if we needed to, I can find another clip to put in there, I guess. I don't even know if I needed to remove it. That is one seriously, man, that is, good luck finding that somewhere. You ain't gonna find that at the hardware store. All right, now that we got our screws out of there, and I got that clip out of there, let's make this blade go vertical. Don't bend it. Does this blade, I'm going to try a very gentle tap on the, yep, that's the way it works. It is coming out of the slot in that shaft. Good old redneck. That blade is, well, it's being removed. Probably in not the most graceful way, but you know, it'll be okay. All right, I might have to work on this for a little while. This is, you know, this is tough. I'll be back. All right, I was able to get the throttle blade vertical, and
hoping I can finish the job here. There we go. And that we didn't ruin anything. I don't think we did. I know it sounds on the camera like I'm really tearing stuff up, but I'm being pretty gentle here. So it's not bent. Yeah, it's fine. Little sanding and a little polishing and it'll be fine. Ain't that pretty? Not really. All right, put that in there. Now let's get our throttle shaft out, hopefully. Let's see, we're going to need something. Some brake caliper pins. These make great little punches for stuff. It looks like I'm assuming there's a brass bushing in there of some kind. It looks like a brass bushing down in there. What do you guys think? Man, this thing here is tight. And then there's a little washer and another little seal right there. Do they make a rebuild kit for these? That's going to be an interesting question to answer. All the Mercedes guys are like, just buy another one. Gee whiz. I know one thing, it is a tight fit in there, which it should be because that prevents vacuum leaks. And that is what our throttle blade shaft, that's our throttle blade shaft. You can see it's ate up with corrosion. And we may just, I don't know, we may just buy some parts or maybe buy another one. And, you know, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if I'm going to rebuild all of this and reuse it or just buy another one or maybe buy some parts and repair this one. Or, I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. What you think we ought to do with this throttle mechanism. And we have good brass bushings on either side because there was a nice tight fit there. I believe this is as far down as we can take it. Probably just need to throw it off in a bath of super clean and let it soak for a couple of days and move on. So I'll get on the confuser box tonight and see if I can find a rebuild kit for this. So what do we have so far? We have all the pipe work from the intake manifold. It's pretty rusty. You can see where the mice have been taking a leak on it, you know. Have all the clamps. We have examples of all the rubber hoses. Over here we have all the throttle is intact and in good condition. It just needs to be cleaned up and all the corrosion removed. These are prime candidates to be replated. We've got to bench test the potentiometer. I'm assuming that's what it is. And we need to figure out if these fuel regulator and accumulator are any good, or if we should just not care and just buy replacements. I have no idea. So maybe figure out a way to test those as well. And bolts and a couple other odds and ends. All right, I'm gonna clean up real quick. Oh, don't forget the throttle blade shaft. Let's put that in the appropriate bag right over here with the throttle stuff. All right, I'm gonna clean up my tools. I'll be right back. All right, I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish this video up. It's gonna be a short one this weekend. Got a lot of stuff to do yet, but yeah, this is just one small piece along the way. And I just wanted to finish up by at least making something look nice. And that's kind of my goal here. I taped off a few areas where I don't want to get paint. So let's see how well we do. right, there you go. Looks a fair sight better than it did. Absolutely. That looks, well, looks brand new. There you go. The power of paint. All right, folks, I think it's going to be all for this weekend's short little video. I've been waiting to tear down that intake manifold for months and months and months, and I finally got around to doing it. It's been kind of a monkey on my back, and we got that done. Right there at the end, we got some paint on the intake manifold. I just wanted to make something look pretty before the end of the video because everything we've been dealing with has been nasty. So yeah, off camera, I'm going to be taking that rear subframe out of the R107 once again. So yeah, I've already got the shock and the spring out of this side, and I've got to take the shock and spring out of this side. Got that parking brake cable off, got to remove that. Anyway, I got to remove the subframe once again in order to replace that rear trailing arm right over there, because I've got the salvage yard trailing arm that I bought recently is sitting right here, and it's going to go in the car. And I've got new bushings I've already installed. There's the old ones laying on the ground there. But all that stuff's going to be done off camera. You've already seen me tear into the rear end of this car. I know that everybody's probably bored with that. So I can get some wheels on this thing and get it back on the ground and start working on the engine. The engine's sitting under that cover over there, patiently awaiting the day when the old man will get around to it. Also, I got new seals in, side seals. These seals right here where the axle shafts go into the differential. In the last video, I accidentally, because I was, an idiot. I installed the seals too deeply, and it didn't have enough room for the thrust washer inside there to move around. So that was a silly mistake. I ordered 2 new seals, and I got those installed, so that is squared away. This, the only thing it needs is a gasket and some oil, and it'll be ready to go back in the car. All right, folks, I think that's going to do it for this weekend. I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys know where it is. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy restoring your classic Mercedes.